Here with me today is Havoc, the Senior Director for Fleet Securities at Atlas Defense Industries. Havoc, I know you've been on before, but can you go ahead and give us a quick introduction to who you are and what you do at ADI?
Absolutely. I'm Havoc, and I am the Fleet Security Director for ADI. I also make content for YouTube.
And what's your YouTube channel?
I am on, well, just youtube.com/Havoc.
There we go. And we'll have a link to that. I think today what we want to talk about is as we sit here, we record these sometimes weeks, sometimes a month or so ahead of releasing them. And today, just in the last 24 hours, they've released the Polaris to PU. And, I see that being a big impact on fleet security as we move forward. You and I have been messing with it for in the PTU and before for a while. And so I think we've got a pretty good grasp on what kind of major impact that's going to have on combat and ship combat and things of that nature. So how do you see the Polaris impacting the game when it comes to space combat?
Absolutely. Well, I the interesting thing about that I've found out about the Polaris is just that with the intro of the PDCs and the fact that they're making them useful against fighters, it's kind of adds a whole new dynamic to combat and something unlike we've ever seen before. And it's really interesting to see that they're going that route because I'm kind of curious as to when armor is introduced, what's going to happen with that.
Well, I think, yeah, that ship is going to be really hard to kill when they add armor. Um, what roles do you see the Polaris being used for in the interim and then long term once we hit go live?
For right now, I see it being used as kind of like a mobile org base, something just absolutely like loaded to the teeth and ready to engage on just a bunch of capital ships like the Idris, for example. And I think it'd be perfect for events like Save Stanton, for example.
It happens to be going on while we're
Yeah, that
recording
happens to
this.
be going on.
Matter of fact, the phase three just dropped in the last 24 hours. So, which is a big capital ship battle. Um, from my perspective, I see the ship as until we get the Idris, which why they won't give us the Idris at this point, I don't understand, but that's a whole nother story. I mean, you can go steal it repeatedly in the game, but somehow we can't, you're going to spoil the surprise by you're muted.
Yes, go ahead.
Somehow you're going to spoil the surprise by us, seeing it more. You want to save it for Squadron 42, but I just don't think that's legitimate anymore. Clearly, it's there or really close to there, so they should just go ahead and release it. But put that on a shelf. I see one of the ingenious uses for the Polaris is probably as a pocket carrier today. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think that if we can fit enough Furies in them, it could be a pretty interesting situation to stuff like 8 or 10, however many. I didn't really participate in
I,
that
I've
testing,
heard
but
rumors of 12
okay. So that's
easily.
pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
And having a bunch of a swarm of Furies come out of the Polaris is pretty. That'll make you think twice before attacking a Polaris without probably quite a bit of help. And I
Yeah.
think with armor, whenever we get that with engineering, I think that will be much more likely for us to probably not really have any issues with any groups that are coming against us unless they are also using a Polaris, a couple of Retaliators, a couple of Eclipses, and then, their own set of fighters as well.
Correct. But
But
I mean, I just can't wait to pop open that hangar and out pops, 8 Furies.
yeah,
Surprise.
yeah, absolutely. It'll be pretty
Um,
interesting. I think I'm really excited to get my hands on it and really actually like train with it or play with it just to mess around on it and see exactly what you can do with it. But going back to the Idris, yeah, I absolutely agree. There this this thought process of gating the Idris just so people can see it during Squadron 42 is
Out the cow or the horse is out of the barn on that one.
excuse my French, it's asinine.
Yes.
It's we've seen it so many times. We can steal it in the verse, multiple versions of it, and you're gonna tell everyone else that owns the ship that has been waiting for it for the better half of 10 years now. Oh no, no, you need to wait until the the ship has been released to Squadron 42. We're gonna hold it until Squadron 42. And the same with the Javelin. It's
Yep.
why? Come on. It makes no sense.
Well, the Javelin, they haven't put that in game yet. And I don't think the servers can handle the Javelin. I think they need
That's
dynamic meshing. And the argument I could see them making is they need dynamic meshing for the Idris.
yeah.
But the instant
And
dynamic meshing comes in and is working stably, the whole we can't give you the Idris goes out the window.
yeah.
And,
And
you
it
know,
it could be a matter of just needing server meshing for that and being able to like increase the server population, but also the the
I,
performance as well. But
I really think it's dynamic server meshing because you need to instance those people off from everything else. I mean, you're talking about having 30 people or more on an Idris. That's,
yeah,
yeah, that's just not going to work unless they instance more,
yeah,
dynamically instance. So I think that's coming first, but there's no argument for not giving it to people here in the near future. It's going to go away. The whole we're saving it for Squadron 42. That cat's out of the bag.
yes, it
So,
is.
um, but so let's talk about crewing. There's a lot of crew today. It's supposed to be a 13-player ship,
Yeah,
12 to 13.
yeah,
Um, today we don't have all the working. We don't have engineering. We don't have any of that gameplay. But it's still, it's a 9-10 person ship
yeah,
minimum to properly
absolutely.
crew it.
You need a pilot and all of the gunners and turrets, and you don't necessarily need one for the missile remote operator, but still beneficial to have at least just for the brief duration that you'll have missiles until it's empty.
Well, I mean, it's the only turret that protects you again. I don't know why they put a missile turret up there, but it's the only turret that protects you against the upper dorsal side of the rear of the ship.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that they might allow us to swap turrets so that we can replace that with an actual gun turret, because that would be
oh,
a
that'd be
much better
amazing.
approach. Yeah,
Yeah, if they let us drop in another remote gun turret there,
yeah,
that would be absolutely amazing. I would do that in a heartbeat because
yeah.
I think
Same here.
that would be better. I wish they give us the ability to change out the lower turret for the main turret for something that had energy weapons, so we didn't have to worry about ammo.
Yeah, see, uh, watching some of the SCLs, they have talked about magazine reloading and whatnot, and it's one of those things that's just like we've been talking about it for so long, but why isn't in yet? And that's something that's really important for all these types of ships. Even fighters need some type of magazine reload. I think it's kind of bizarre how they haven't just created even a basic system that can, click a button, reload, or just automatically once you're empty, it auto loads for you. You can just
Yeah,
make an auto
drains
loader
out of the
system for that.
cargo bay or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I
But
mean, at least we can load missiles in, although they're way too expensive.
yeah,
you know?
the the thing I would like to see though is I have a big problem on the Polaris specifically with the the capacitors, the amount of shots that you get, even with just energy weapons on each turret, is abysmally low, in my opinion. It's like
Well,
10
I
to
think,
12 shots.
but people are not fully powering the weapons.
Well, yeah, even when they're fully powered, it was like, what was it, 20 something shots if it was fully powered on just the
Uh,
Omniskis.
I
Um,
don't know. I mean, when we pulled power out of maneuvering and shoved it all the way into the weapons, I mean, they were almost able to sustain fire.
okay.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
I think,
I didn't really know,
yeah,
but
I mean, I think I mean, obviously you would want it to be longer. Always, you'd
yeah,
like to be able to just hold the button down constantly and never run out or overheat. But I would say it was no different than the Hammerhead or the Carrack once we did that.
Suppose. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I
but I
didn't really
think
get a
that,
whole lot of time, but yeah.
well, I mean, I think the issue is nobody's sitting at the engineering console and routing power. You
Yeah.
know, I think they just come in because you got to remember they're only half powered by default.
That's
And
true.
so, and you've got to pull stuff out of other places, shielding or
I
other
suppose we don't
areas.
I suppose we don't have batteries either. So once batteries come in, that will
That
change
would
it a bit too.
probably help. Yep. I see this as a big ship. I mean, I think you're going to be at 10 or 12 crew once engineering gets in.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to be able to fly around. This is not a ship that you could fly around with 4 or 5 people like a Carrack.
Oh no. No.
You know,
Definitely
I've
not.
seen a lot of Carracks go out with just 4 people on them because, you know, the dorsal gun is pretty useless. And I mean, it is, it just has bad
Yep.
coverage.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't see how you're going to go out with 5 or 6 guys in this and be, I mean, you're going to get eaten alive if you do.
Yeah. I agree.
And so, are you looking forward to deploying in our first ops?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. I think that just being able to get my hands on the Polaris and see it actually happen in an operation, that would be pretty amazing. I'm gonna have to sit down in a chair and go into third person and just start capturing
Videotaping.
footage. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I'm
I
really
mean, we
bad
go,
with angling cameras though, but whatever.
well, you know, we've been running Carracks and Hammerheads for a long time
Yeah.
and, you know, fully crewed, over crewed in a lot of cases.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is, you know, we've got 2 big ops coming up today and tomorrow. Both are going to be, you know, one's going to be about 30 people and the other one's probably going to be, we're going to probably have to cap at 70.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the Polaris is going to play a big role in both those ops.
I agree. Should be cool.
So, what do you, you know, you've had it in combat, I've had it in combat. I don't see, this ship is pretty tough.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
see how, um, I don't see how people are going to take it down with those PDCs easily. I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
you're going to need a large force
I think so as well.
for a
I'd
fully
really
crewed
like
one.
to, yeah, I'd really like to get into testing and see kind of what it would take. Like if it would take a couple of retaliators or, what type of force you can throw at it and actually take it down quick enough to matter without them calling for reinforcements and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of retaliators or eclipses maybe might, but the problem is those PDCs are pretty deadly towards the missiles. And
Yeah,
so, you know, I think that the days of doing 2 things, one firing big missiles at something and destroying it, and then slinking away, or with those PDCs, are probably over. And I suspect we're going to see when they go to do refreshes, like, I don't know, Carrack, that we're going to see PDCs being popped up on some of those. And
yeah,
yeah, I think so. I think that's a very likely outcome. Um, and so, yeah, I think that there's um, I think it's going to be a lot harder to kill the bigger ships, particularly when they're rock, paper, scissoring things. And so, you know, you give us an Idris, a couple of Polarises, and a couple of Hammerheads, and that's going to be a pretty dangerous thing to play with no matter what you bring. So,
yeah, absolutely.
so what closing thoughts? You know, this is the first capital ship they put in the game. Do you know, just for historical purposes, as we look back at this, how big of a deal is this, and how much do you think it's going to impact gameplay moving forward?
I think it's a major deal. I think it's going to completely shift combat in a completely different direction than we were ever used to. I think that just by introducing that as kind of like a mini carrier, as you say, it's going to increase the amount of firepower that you can have in one specific area without having to have like, you know, too many ships that to support it and whatnot. Like 8 to 10 to even 12 Furies, for example, popping out of that thing. That is a lot of firepower. Even though the Furies are like, they're smaller ships, they're a little bit less powerful guns, but they're still powerful enough to take down a bunch of fighters.
I agree completely. Well, Havoc, thank you very much. And again, check Havoc out. You'll be able to get a link to his YouTube channel in the description. And we'll see you in the verse.
Thanks for having me, Jay.